Hello, Tracy here, and welcome to a scrapbooking process video. This time I'm doing pocket scrapbooking of my Seattle trip. Now, this is a project that has already been started. I started it way back in March of 2020, and so I'm refamiliarizing myself with the supplies. I packed it all away back in March of 2020, so that's almost 2 years ago now. And so I'm just taking a look at all of these things that I had set aside. So I have a Seattle stamp set that's from Studio Calico and a couple of Kelly Perky travel related stamp sets as well. I have, I think I have an Ali Edwards Stories kit that includes some travel theming to it. I have some Vicky Bouton supplies. These are papers from the Let's Wander collection. I have the stickers and the thicker stickers as well. So all of these things, they're all supplies from about 2 years ago or more, because I haven't really touched this project in the past 2 years. I have it all stored in this iris container here, along with the starting pages of this. So I had done that first page, and then I had to pack everything up and put it away. I was doing it at a crop, and I had to leave the crop kind of quickly. And so I really only got the first page started, and I can't even remember if I finished the first page or just mostly did the first page. But anyhow, I'm going to pick up where I left off, because this iris container has been kicking around my scrap room for 2 years now, and it's time to get these memories, what's left of the memories, documented and put into my book. Now, you see that I have this footage here of myself up in the corner. That's because I was live streaming with my patrons. I do that about once a month in an interactive way with people over on Patreon. So if you're interested in participating in that, you can head on over to patreon.com/MercyTiara. But for the most part, there's no content over there that doesn't eventually make its way over here to YouTube. So there's not really much exclusive over there, unless if you're interested in real-time process videos. So I do capture my process not sped up. And so if you're interested in that kind of stuff, you'll find it over there as well. So as you can see, I'm just gathering up a bunch of stuff. I had some 4x6 and 3x4 inch cards that were set aside. Basically, some of them were travel themed, either from Kelly Perky or from Ali Edwards collections. But every once in a while, if I found a travel themed card, I would just put it aside. And so this is the page that I have completed so far. I did it at the crop, so I don't have any video footage of it. But I was stamping on photos and labeling and those sorts of things. And so I wanted to kind of not only share it with you guys, the viewers, but also just kind of remind myself what my headspace was when I was starting to document this, so that I could just like have a better sense of what I had planned to do. So I'm kind of feeling like maybe I can just leave that second page. It's not completely done, but I might leave it mostly the way that it is. And now the rest of these pockets are really just holding categories of either ephemera or photos or things that I had planned to capture, but I really can't remember what my plans were anymore. So I kind of have to start all over again with this. So these are all from the Chihuly Glass and Garden, which is by the Space Needle. And I have, these are photos, I think, from our very last day. So I'm going to keep those separate. Those are kind of like the journey home. I have a lot of food pictures and restaurant pictures here. So they're not all from the same restaurant. So I'm just kind of trying to remember. And then these are things from the MoPop, so the Museum of Pop Culture. Pardon me, I can't even remember what all of these places are. These are all photos from the market, from the public market, and including the first Starbucks ever. So the very original Starbucks location we went to as well. So I have some ephemera from that. And then this is from one of the restaurants that we really loved, that we went to several times. We were only there for a few days, but we went to that restaurant several times. And so I'm just going through this, and if I had just come back from a trip, I might be in a similar circumstance where I might have, lots of photos taken and printed, and I just kind of have to put them together with the ephemera that I have. In this case, I was in Seattle to attend a workshop, so I have some information from the workshop there. That's a picture I printed up from the internet of Niles and Fraser, and some photos of Scott. This is Scott when he solved the puzzle in the elevator. We were staying at a really cool, highly themed hotel, so there's lots of pictures of that. I just wanted to also share just like the context of my workspace. So this is what my workspace looks like as I'm doing this process. So as you can see, I have everything all spread out, and you can't really see that from the top-down angle. And I just put my iris container right beside me, and it can hold any extra embellishments or things that I want. It's on the floor, but I can still reach down there and get it pretty easily. And so just going through, these are bus passes and tickets to the monorail and basically transportation and the wristband from the underground tour that we went on. And now I'm just looking at these photos. They're all in one pile, but I'm just making sure that they all go together. It looks like they're all kind of city photos. I can tell that they're taken in a couple of different places, but they all kind of have the same vibe to them with lots of architecture and buildings and stuff. So I've got myself all spread out here. These are the pocket page protectors that I'm going to use. This is going to be a 4-part video, so you're just seeing part 1 right now. Part 1 is basically going to include a lot of my planning and familiarizing myself with materials and a little bit of scrapping, but part 1 is going to be that, and then part 2, 3, and 4 will be mostly scrapping. So here I am, and now I'm going to be familiarizing myself with the contents of the scrapbooking supplies. So now that I've had a look at what photos and what ephemera I have, I'm going to spend some time here just looking through what cards I have, because if there are any cards that feel like they go with a certain story, I want to pull those out and match those up with the photos or the ephemera right away. And so I'm also going to weed out here. Not all of these belong together. This paper right here in my hand, I cut down to 4x6 rectangles. It's from the Vicki Boutin collection. And I really liked, I've used it other places, and I like using map paper as a background on my travel pages. I don't travel very often, so that kind of gives these like a similarity to all of my travel themed project life pages and whatnot. So I'm just kind of going through, as you can see, and I'm trying to put anything that's kind of specific to my travels in one pile, and then any generic journaling or cards that don't necessarily have a travel theme but work well with my stories, I'm putting in the other category. So anything with cameras or maps or talking about adventure or roam or wander, explore, all of those things are all going in the left pile. And then anything that's just kind of like generic, like lists or patterns, like leaves or those sorts of things, are all going in the right hand pile. So there we have it. I am going to put those together eventually, but it helps me, when I'm looking for a certain card, if I'm like, oh, I think I had a wander card, I know which pile to go into to look for that. So this is that iris container again. I had it down on the floor beside me, and it had some of the scraps from that Vicki Boutin paper that I had cut apart. It had all of these Polaroid frames on them, and they had a really strong travel theme, so I had those. I also have these chipboard pieces from Studio Calico. I think it's from Studio Calico. Could be from Ali Edwards, but it looks like it's from Studio Calico to me. And I also have these little thin paper punch apart embellishments. I didn't end up using those, but I put them here. They had the word adventure on that first page, but they're not really travel themed. I do have these die cuts from Vicki Boutin as well, and I don't think I used any of them, to be honest, but I did take them out of their packaging just to make it a little bit easier for me to access. I'm using one of my faux leather valet trays that I got from Chapters Indigo, which is a big box bookstore here in Canada. I really love using those to hold my embellishments and little collections of stuff. And I'll just keep the packaging with it so that I can know at a glance what all is in this. Oh yes, I'm just showing this to somebody, I think asked a question about it. So I'm just showing another one. I like that they store flat when you're not using them so they don't take up too much space on my shelf. So I'm having a look at what are the sentiments on these sticker sheets, what are some of the shapes so that I know what I have to work with. And this is the kind of thing that is worth taking that extra time to familiarize yourself with your supplies if it's been a long time since you've done this project, right? Like back when I had first bought these supplies, I was very excited about them. I was very familiar with them. I had spent a lot of time trying to decide which travel items I would get, so I knew what I had. But it's been 2 years, so now I don't know. So I find that it's helpful to just spend some time just looking through stuff, touching it, smelling it, interacting with my supplies so that I really know what I have and what I want to use. So that part is done, and now I'm moving on to the actual scrapbooking phase. So now at this point, I really want to start with this photo of Scott trying to solve the puzzle in the elevator, because later on I'm going to post a picture of the puzzle solved. And so I want to make sure that this picture lands somewhere towards the beginning of my pages. And I don't know how long this is going to be, so I want to get it right here on the first side of the first pocket page, but basically page 2 is where it ends up going. So I had this thing that I had cut out. It says take note, and it looks like a note, and I had hand cut that, and I don't know what I cut it off of, but it's a sturdy chipboard type of thing. And so my thought is that I would use it as a mat here, and I can't find my Sharpie pen that I love so much and I use, so I had to take a look at my Faber-Castell pens and find the one that was the right width. I'm using a Faber-Castell Pitt pen for my journaling for the entire project here today. And I think I'm using the fine, so that comes in super fine, fine, medium, and brush, and I'm using the fine one, so it's the second smallest. So I'm doing some journaling here and ran out of, what was I thinking? You can't do the amount of journaling I want to do in that tiny bit of space, so I'm going to pull that off. And I'm just looking for another card that I could layer underneath. And I found this postcard themed card here. And so I'm just going to use that instead. And if I offset the photo a little bit, then I can write on those lines and still have the photo show. I just left those staples. I had stapled the photo to that take note piece of cutout chipboard. So I just left them in place. It looks like it's stapled onto the new card. So my journaling here says, Scott was determined to solve the slider puzzle in the elevator. Each trip we took, he did a little bit more. Surprisingly, only a few times was it messed up between trips. That's an awkward way to say that, but I think it gets the story across. I do want to salvage this, so I decided to just trim off the writing that I did, and maybe I can use it someplace else. But spoiler alert, it's not going to make its way onto these pages. So I think I'm just going to leave this heart where it's at. It's not actually glued down, but I don't mind if it moves around. I couldn't move it if I tried, so it's probably not going to move around at all. And if it does, it's not the end of the world. So I did glue down this pineapple badge, and I don't know where I got this from, but it was something that I really enjoy pineapples, and a lot of people have given me pineapples. It's very possible that Giselle gave me that one. Also, Christine might have given it to me, but it was in a bunch of stuff that people gave me that are pineapple themed, because I love pineapples. I love the taste of them, and I love the design of them. And we stayed at a pineapple themed hotel. It was called Stay Pineapple. And so I just did some hand journaling right on the photo there that says our pineapple themed hotel was over the top pineapple-y, but so much fun. And right beside that is a photo of cookies from the lobby. So in the lobby, you could help yourself to pineapple water and cookies that were, as you can see on the plate there, they're pineapple decorated cookies. This is back in the day of help yourself to food, all laid out where people can touch it. And that didn't bother us for some reason. So I'm just writing my journaling here on this piece of white paper. Then I'm going to cut it into a strip and cut it up a little bit more. So it says pineapple cookies in the lobby. With all of these pages, there's going to be quite a bit less documenting than there usually is in my travel pages, just because this trip was 2 full years ago now. And so because we went in the fall of 2019, and I'm now scrapbooking this in December of 2021. So it's really just going to be the details I can think of as I go through. In a few places I consulted Scott's memory, or I might have looked at the date or the geotag on a photo or something, but for the most part I'm just going by my 2-year-old memory, which is not very good. So it's not very good when it's not 2 years old. So this is just a picture of me and a friend who I met at the course, and we're just posing in front of this really beautiful building that shone different colors depending on the time of day and the lighting that was on it. It was really, really beautiful. So I had to make sure that I got this one. It says, "My Gottman buddy, Pat." And just kind of playing around with where to put it. I don't love it right there under our chins, but I also didn't want to cover up some of the beautiful architecture that is in that photo, so I just decided to put it down there anyways. And I'm just looking for another fun embellishment to potentially put on this. So I'm looking at these chipboard pieces here from Vicky Booten. And none of those are exactly right. I don't want anything too big. I really like this chipboard piece here, this yellow one. It says currently exploring. And so I'm going to put this right here. It doesn't cover up anything too important. Now, here I have two 2x3 photos. This is one of the standard sized photos that I print. One of them looks like it's been trimmed down a little bit more, but they were originally printed at 2x3. And they're just photos of our room. And I had these 2 3x4 cards, so I'm going to use those. One of them has like a map and then a white band at the bottom to journal on, so I'll do some journaling there. It says, "Our room was so cool." It was very kind of Art Deco / chic. Colorful. I don't know. It was like, I don't know how you describe it. It's like bold, colorful, fancy, over the top. Really, really fun. So I did have to look up the date of our trip, and it was October 2nd, 2019 was when we arrived at the hotel. So I grabbed my roller date stamp, and it does go up to 2019, so that's a good thing. So I'm putting the date right there. This card has today's adventure, and then it has a date and a place, and then it says this happened. So the place, I'm putting Stay Pineapple, Seattle. And then under this happened, I'm saying the room was boldly decorated in a funky chic style. And then at the bottom, it says I would recommend this again or would not recommend this again. Circle 1. And so I'm going to circle that I would recommend it. Just fixing up a little something there with a little mistake I made with my whiteout pen. I just use, I called it a pen, but it's actually a little tape, a whiteout tape dispenser. So I'm just mounting these to the back side of the other card that's on the front page. So it looks like that on that side, and then mounting those to the back side of it. So now I think I'm just going to leave that last pocket just as it is. It just has the yellow card with the Stay Pineapple. That's like what our room key came in, the little folder. So I'm just going to leave that as it is. And moving on to this top photo, I just wanted to put a little caption on it. It's a kind of, I really like how it turned out. It's the picture of the Seattle Space Needle from our hotel room on our first night. So it was kind of the way that the lighting is, you could see it, and it just looked pretty cool. So I just wanted to say that this is from our room, just so that I can kind of remember that we had kind of a cool view. It wasn't like our room wasn't in amongst the big buildings, it was off to the side. And so it was a pretty good spot. It was within walking distance of the tower, and my workshop was where the tower was. So I keep calling it the tower because I used to live in Calgary and we called our tower the tower. It looks a lot like the Calgary Tower. It's not the same though. So I just grabbed my Ali Edwards / Kelly Perky label sticker stash and grabbed a label there. I went with a brown one, and it has lines on it. No, it doesn't have lines on it. I'm going to draw the lines. So again, I'm just kind of showing you different camera angles so that you can see how I have my space set up as I scrapbook. I'm writing the view from our room. Love that iconic Space Needle. So that pocket will go, that photo will go up in that pocket, and then the second half of that page is done. Well, I guess it's the first half of the second spread is done. So normally I don't necessarily, I will usually design a whole spread and then scrapbook it all, but for some reason I did it this way this time. I'm taking a little breather and chatting with my Patreon members here. And now I wanted to just mention that I use these Project Life templates. I just drew out on a piece of craft cardstock the pockets as they appear. And I'm just going to go through and decide, what am I going to scrapbook next? So I'm not sure. I'm kind of thinking about the fact that I've got a half of a page here and trying to decide what it is that I want to do with it. I love these maps, and so my thought is that maybe I will cut this map apart. That was my initial thought, and use it for backgrounds. I've done that before, but it turns out I don't think I'm going to do that. So I'm a little bit thrown off my game here because I am designing the second half of a 2-page spread here, but I'm doing it as if I'm designing a full page spread here. So I'm not sure if I'm doing this because I was distracted by the fact that I'm chatting with people while I do it, or what the deal is, but I'm doing this in a funny way. Maybe if anybody was there that day who remembers, they can leave a comment. I can't remember if I got myself mixed up or if I was doing this on purpose. Anyhow, my name tag, I know what my name is, so I don't really need my name tag there, but I did like the way that the Gottman Institute was written out in the font that is part of their logo, so I cut that part out and just mounted it on the photo like that. And then I'm taking this chipboard piece from Ali Edwards or Kelly Perky, and it says, check this out. And I like how that works. A lot of these stickers are too big for 3x4 pockets, so they're more designed for scrapbook pages, like big 12x12 pages. So none of the things that I could find on that sticker sheet really worked, so I went back to my idea of using this piece of chipboard. I really love using these chipboard pieces. They're one of my favorite things about the Ali Edwards and the Kelly Perky kits that I used to get. I just love the size of them. Now, this journey word from Ali Edwards, I've had that in my stash for quite some time. I think it came in a stories kit, and I am using that stories kit in my project here. So I wanted to take that out of my stash right away and keep it on hand so that I don't forget to use it. I don't travel much, so I've got to get these products on my pages. Look at me, I'm double fisting it. I've got a bottle of water and a coffee on the go. And these are all food themed pictures, so I want to make sure that I spread them around, especially where they're from different restaurants. I don't want to make it look like they were all taken at once. Some of them are from the same restaurant, and I do have the digital, like the photos are all still on my computer, so I can check the geotags and the dates and times on them to see which ones actually go together. So I am cutting out a little caption, and it says Laredos. Laredos? I don't know how you pronounce it, but I looked it up. I looked it up using the geotag that came with the photo to see where it was. It was delicious Mexican food. Like some of the best Mexican food we've ever had, we got in Seattle. We ate Mexican a lot when we were there. I think we were there for 5 days or maybe 6 days. Now, I also want to make sure that I get an assortment of photos on this page because this one is not necessarily going to be a themed, like this page isn't telling a specific story. So I'm mindful of a couple things here. First, I want to make sure that the memories from earlier in the trip are in the first parts of these pages, and that it goes in a rough chronological order. I'm not interested in things like we did these exact things on Tuesday, these exact things on Wednesday. That doesn't matter to me, but I do want to have it in mostly chronological order. And then also, unless if I'm using a couple of pockets to tell a specific story, I want to mix in the food stuff with some of the other exploring things as well, so that it's not kind of like, here's all the food we ate on this trip. Although that's a cool way to do it too. That's just not what I wanted to do for this particular page. So I am spreading the photos that I have out with that in mind, like trying to tell a variety of stories and keeping like those two REI photos go together. So I'm keeping those right there up in that top left-hand corner, for example. And I'm basically just kind of like thinking about what I have to work with, what stories I want to tell, and trying to leave some space for enough storytelling to happen. There are some photos that I definitely want to go together. So photos from for example, those two REI ones, I want them together because those really are one story. I also have Scott in the restaurant that we went to. It was called Citizen, I think. So him and then the food from that restaurant. But we went back there a couple of times, so we have a couple of different sets of photos from there. So I don't have to put all of them right here because I will go back to that place. I'm also mixing in some street photography amongst these. So these are not necessarily, specifically about that waterfall or about that particular, sculpture or whatever. It's just kind of like cool things that we saw when we were in Seattle. I don't need to tell a story about every single one of them, especially where it's all happened 2 years ago. And I don't necessarily remember why I took all these photos. And I don't always have a reason. Sometimes it's just, oh, this is cool, take a picture of it. And that's the extent of the story. So it's important when you're going back and filling in the gaps in your documenting that you're kind to yourself and easy with yourself about, the importance of all of these things. It doesn't really matter that I document every single part of my trip. I just want to remember that we went and have these photos to look at. And having some of them documented is better than having none of them documented. So I went with only one picture of the REI. I just thought it's not that important of a story to warrant two different photos of it. So I'm mindful here that I have a lot of photos to scrap. And so although I don't want photos in every single pocket, these pages are going to be fairly dense. And so this is the setup for this page, but you will see me scrapbooking it in the next video. This is part 1 of a 4-part series. So the rest of the videos are much more dense in terms of lots of scrapbooking happens, whereas in this video, there was a lot of kind of planning and familiarizing myself with the supplies and whatnot. So thanks so much for watching this one. Make sure you check out the next one. I'll link it in the information section below and also in a card. So thanks so much for watching and have a really great scrappy week.